Darkcast Network, bringing our indie podcasts out of the shadows.
Just before we dive into this week's episode, here's a promo.
Hello, my name is Mallory Jenner Robinson. Join me in listening to A Hateful Homicide, a true crime podcast dedicated to telling the stories of the trans and gender non-binary communities. Tune in Saturdays at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can find us on Apple Podcasts by typing in A Hateful Homicide, and you can also find us on Anchor and Spotify by typing in A Hateful Homicide. Follow us on IG at A Hateful Homicide, and you can follow me at Mallory Jenna 90. Again, tune in on Saturdays at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen, and I appreciate each and every one of you and your efforts to helping stop trans erasure and supporting all trans lives. Thank you.
Welcome to CrimeDivers. I'm Laura.
And I'm Jill.
And welcome back.
Hello everybody, welcome back. Thanks for joining us once again. Mm-hmm. So today we have a Laura-sode.
We do.
So what's the name of your episode?
Called Three's a Crowd.
Yep, it is.
It definitely is.
And where are we?
We're in the UK.
Oh, in the UK.
Yes, we are.
Oh, okay. I wonder if I know it then.
Well, I don't know.
Not that I know every single crime case.
No, but shall we dive in?
Yeah, let's dive in.
Okay, so Catherine Wells-Burr was a 23-year-old woman born in the southwest of England. I think she was born in Somerset, but I'm not 100% sure because it was not a definite kind of that's where she was born.
Okay.
But it was around that area, because she lived around that area her whole life. And you know, our friends and our family would call Catherine Caff, as in C-A-F, Caff.
Caff.
Yeah, but I kind of felt like that was inappropriate to refer to her because that was like our friends and our
right.
family,
Okay.
so I'm just going to call her Catherine.
Right.
Just okay. Her new nickname is Caff. She attended Bath Spa University where she studied business and management, and she was very intelligent and very ambitious, and she loved music, with Eminem being one of her favourites.
Okay.
So in the summer of 2010, when Catherine was 21 years old, she was just finishing her university course and she got a part-time job at a Henry Hoover factory in Somerset.
Oh, Henry Hoover!
Yeah, Henry Hoover. So while she was working there, she met an older man that would sweep her off her feet, and his name was Rafał Nowak. Rafał.
Okay.
He's Polish.
I was going to say, I didn't think he was British.
Rafał. He was 29 and originally from Poland, but he had a normal life over in Poland. He'd had a wife, a child. His life was going well, but then he decided to leave all of that. He didn't want to be with his wife anymore. He didn't want his child anymore. Apparently he was in a lot of debt, so he decided to come over to the UK to get a better job than what he'd had in Poland, basically so he could pay off his debt and start a new life.
Okay.
So when he arrived in the UK, he actually began dating another Polish woman, and her name was Anna Lagwinowicz. But
well done.
I know, I thought that was quite good there, because I was thinking, don't panic when you say the name in case you get it wrong.
There is absolutely no way I would have got that.
I know.
No way. So well done.
Yes.
I'm proud of you.
Well, thankfully I was just referred to as Anna from now on, but I got her last name correct.
Well done.
So I said she was Polish, yeah. But as we know, that summer he met Catherine while they were both working at the Henry Hoover factory.
Yeah.
So he was still with Anna, but after meeting Catherine, he started to like her in a romantic way. So basically started to see both women at the same time. Uh-huh. So Catherine was completely unaware of Anna, and Anna was completely unaware of Catherine.
Right.
So he was actually living with Anna initially, but as things began progressing with Catherine, he realised that he couldn't keep it up much longer. He couldn't keep seeing both women at the same time. And things were obviously getting a bit more serious with Catherine, because she had actually introduced Rafał to, her whole family.
Right.
They totally welcomed him into the family as like a son. And Catherine told her family that she wanted to spend the rest of her life with him. So Rafał, he agreed. He decided that he liked Catherine more, so he decided to break up with Anna, which I suppose it's a decent thing to do.
Yeah.
Even though he shouldn't really be with the two
Well, no,
at the same time.
but-
But if things were getting more serious, I get, he'd obviously decided that Catherine was the one that he wanted to be with. So both women, they were still none the wiser at this point. But obviously, when he did break up with Anna, both of them were still none the wiser at this point. So as he broke things off with Anna, she had no idea that Rafael was actually leaving her for another woman.
Right, okay.
She just thought that, well, he didn't want to be with me, and that was that. So Catherine and Rafael, they actually ended up buying their first home together in a town called Chard, which was in Somerset. And they were both so happy together, and they began talking about their future, and they want to get married, they want to start a family together. So
Sounds like it's all good.
yeah, totally, it was all good swimming around. So
Yeah.
Catherine,
I'm
she was
suspicious,
just,
though.
well, it's a true crime case, so we know it's not going to last. But Catherine was just about to graduate from university. She was going to move up in her career. Everything was looking bright for her future. And in 2011, when she did graduate, she decided to get a job, which was still within the Henry Hoover factory, but it would be a higher up position.
Right.
The factory, they actually had a graduate training program, and that's exactly what she wanted to do. Her mum, her dad, and her sister, they all worked in the factory as well.
Oh,
So
that's
it's like
cute.
a fun thing. But she was going to be higher up than them. But she knew ever since she was younger that she wanted to get into the factory, but she wanted a higher up role, like a manager. And that's exactly what she was on track to do. But one day in September 2012, Catherine didn't show up to work. Rafael was at work because he started earlier than her. So he would start at like 5-6 in the morning, whereas because Catherine was more like an office-y sort of based job, she would start
Right.
more like 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
So Rafael was at work, and he noticed that, Catherine hadn't turned up. So he went across to his manager, and he told him, that he was really worried. He said that he'd left Catherine at home in the morning. She was fine. I gave her a kiss goodbye, but she's not turned up to work. So of course Rafael must have been trying to phone her because she wasn't answering her phone. She wasn't texting him back. And as I just said, he started work earlier. But as Catherine had been promoted, she started at 9 a.m. So Rafael would leave for work, and Catherine would obviously still be in bed. She had never slept in or missed a shift. So, it was quite unlike
It was
her.
unusual,
It was totally out of character. It wasn't something that happened. But he was hoping that maybe she just felt unwell or something. So, he just carried on with his shift as normal. And then finishes his shift, and, he goes home in the evening. So this has been all day. She's just not turned up, not been answering her calls. So he goes home, but Catherine's not at home. So he turned up, she's not there. Her car's gone. So, she's
Where is she?
Yeah, where is she? Yeah, she's obviously gone off somewhere. So Rafael called Catherine's parents and said, Catherine's not home. She didn't turn up for work today. Her car's gone. Didn't answer her phone. I'm really, really worried. What's happened? So, parents decide to jump in the car, come across to the house. And on the way, Catherine's mother actually said that she felt in her gut that something wasn't right.
Aw.
Mother's instinct, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
She thought something maybe serious had happened, and, she just knew something wasn't right. So by the time her parents arrived, there had still been no contact from Catherine to anyone. So I'm assuming they must have tried to get in touch with her as well.
Yeah.
But, there was just no word from her, no idea, nobody had heard from her. So Rafael mentioned to Catherine's parents that he had one major worry, and he told them that Catherine had been getting texts and emails from an ex-boyfriend for some time now, and they were of a very threatening nature, saying things like, if I can't have you, no one can. So they were now all worried for Catherine's safety.
Yeah.
And Rafael was also worried that Catherine might do something to herself, as she was so distressed and anxious with these texts that, she'd spoken of suicide before.
Right.
So, he was saying all these things. So the family decided that this was quite serious, so they did decide to phone the police.
Yeah.
And a search began immediately. The family, they all stayed at home just comforting each other, but it didn't take long for the family to receive the news that they were just dreading the most. And Catherine had been found, but sadly, she was dead. Her body had been found on the side of a road in her own car about 7 miles away from where she lived in a town called Ashel. So that's not the news that they were obviously hoping for.
No.
So the car, it had actually been set on fire and burned out. Catherine's body was inside, so her body was obviously recovered from the car and taken for an autopsy, because at this point it was, of course, unclear her exact cause of death. It just seemed very suspicious, like maybe it was suicide, but it's unlikely that suicide victims will burn the car that they kill themselves.
I was just thinking that.
And like, what would be the point?
Yeah, exactly. Like, why would... No,
Yeah, so
that doesn't sound right.
No. So the fact that the car was set on fire, that looks more like, someone was trying to cover their tracks to get rid of evidence more than she'd killed herself.
Yeah.
So police, rightly so, they were now treating this as a suspicious death. So they began interviewing all of Catherine's family, including Rafal. But there was no evidence to suspect him. But, we all know that these kind of unexpected deaths, police often look at the partner or an ex-partner first.
Yeah.
But police reassured both him and the rest of the family that this was just routine and that they'd be looking into all other avenues as well. So Rafal told police that he was with Catherine the whole evening the night before she was found dead. He said that they'd gone into the supermarket to buy some last-minute ingredients for dinner because they were going to have burgers. So they needed some lettuce and burger buns. They went back home and they had their dinner, and then they settled down to watch a DVD together, and then they went to bed as normal. So the next morning, he woke up at 5 o'clock. Catherine was still asleep, so he got up and got dressed for work. And then, which I thought was bad, imagine waking her up, but then he woke her just to give her a kiss. I would be like raging, like, what are you waking me up for? It's like 5 o'clock in the morning, like.
But maybe people do that.
Well, I don't. I mean, if I get up for work, because I get up for work at 5 o'clock in the morning, I just get up, all my clothes are outside in the spare room, and I just go out. I don't say to Justin, bye, I'm going to work now, like, because I know he's still sleeping, so I thought I was a bit rude.
Well, maybe some people do it, I don't know.
Obviously do, but anyway, so he got dressed for work, and then he woke her up as he was leaving to give her a goodbye kiss. He then left, leaving Catherine to go back to sleep for a bit longer. As we know, she didn't start for another few hours. And he said that is what he would do every morning.
Maybe it's a romantic thing. Maybe we're just not romantic, that you give your partner a kiss goodbye.
I mean, because sometimes, like, if Justin gets up before me, like, I will wake, because he's not exactly the quietest person in the world. And he'll, like, come in and out the room a million times, and if he has a shower, obviously, because we've got an ensuite in the bedroom. And he does annoy me, but... Sorry, I'm going to cough. I've got a bit of a tickle in my throat.
Laura's had the cold.
Mm. And I'm now drinking your juice because I didn't bring mine up. But yeah, like when I get up for work at 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm very aware that it's very early and it's not a normal time to be up. So I try to be like really quiet. Like literally I will have my stuff ready in the spare room. Obviously I'll get up, go into the spare room, get dressed, I'll use the other toilet, and then I'll go downstairs and be quiet as a mouse until I have to go. You know?
Well, maybe you're just more considerate.
Well, maybe I am. I don't know.
Or maybe you're just not romantic.
Well, not that time in the morning, no. Definitely not. So anyway, Catherine's family offered for Rafal to actually come and stay with them, as they didn't want him to be on his own. Mm-hmm. They wanted everyone to be together so that they could comfort each other, because obviously, tragedies happened. So, as I said to you, remember, he was like a son to them, so, of course they did the right thing, well, what they thought was the right thing by inviting him into their house. So, however, it wasn't long until Catherine's family actually started to have their doubts about Rafal. So much so that they did actually go to the police with their concerns. So for starters, the way that he was acting on the evening that he found out Catherine was dead, he just didn't seem as sad as everyone else.
Right.
And while people, and we know people deal with grief differently.
Yeah,
don't
of course.
Get me wrong. People deal with it different ways. He didn't even cry. He barely spoke about Catherine that night. He actually spoke more about wanting a steak dinner than he did about than he spoke about losing the love of his life.
Okay, that's a bit dodgy.
Yeah, and I mean, her family also recalled something Rafal had said when Catherine was just like missing at this point. Of course, her whole family are all thinking she would come back, but Rafal was saying that he had lost his world, his whole future, and her family were stood there thinking she's not even been missing 24 hours yet. It's almost as if Rafal knew she wasn't coming back.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
But obviously, I think at the time, because you're in that situation, sometimes you don't really realise what's going on, don't you? Because they were so concerned about Catherine at that point that things that have been said, it's only now that they've actually had time to think about it that they think they've realised, that wasn't quite right. So Catherine's family also remembered one piece of very important information, And that was that Catherine and Rafal had recently taken out life insurance policies and made each other the sole beneficiaries, and these policies totaled $123,000 each.
Okay.
So that seems quite an expensive amount for someone so young. But to be fair, I mean, I thought maybe it was because obviously I know that I didn't have life insurance until we bought a house.
Did you not?
No, I didn't know.
Why not?
I don't know. We didn't have it until we bought our house. Obviously the first one.
Yeah.
And that was obviously because, if anything ever happened to each other, then you'd be able to pay off the mortgage. So for me, that's why I thought, well, maybe that is why it's quite a big amount, because that would make sense to me that, if you've bought a house and somebody dies, because I mean, if something happened to Justin, I couldn't afford the mortgage in our house, whereas if I had money to pay it off, then obviously I wouldn't lose my house. So, I totally understand that sort of side of it, but they thought that was quite a lot of money. So was that motive for murder? They thought maybe, did he want the life insurance money? So police decided to look further into Rafal.
You getting a cough again?
My throat is so tickly. I think it just gets so dry when you're talking.
Well, I hope you're not infectious because you're drinking my juice.
No, I'm feeling fine. It's just this really dry throat. Sorry. So police decided to look further into Rafal. They seized his phone and they searched his house, and they soon uncovered that Rafal was living a double life. He was seeing his supposed ex, Anna.
I kind of gathered that when you said three's a crowd.
Yeah, but I did actually wonder, did they actually break up? I mean, I don't know if they actually did break up. Like, did he really break up with her?
Well, they got back together.
Yeah, I mean, it's thought that he did, but I don't know whether he did or not, or I don't know. But anyway, he was there. So texts on his phone revealed that he'd actually been secretly meeting up with Anna multiple times a week, sometimes even twice a day. And Anna was obviously aware of Catherine this time.
Right, okay.
So she was obviously aware of Catherine. As Anna was very jealous of Catherine. Anna was very angry that Rafal wasn't leaving Catherine for her. And these texts suggested that Rafal and Anna had met up 78 times in the past however many months. And police also decided to look into his life in Poland.
Oh, don't tell me he had another...
And it turned out he had a criminal record for violence against women. He'd actually been convicted of a number of things in Poland, including reckless drunk driving, but also abusing his wife. And that was one of the reasons why he'd moved to the UK.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just that he didn't want to be with her, he'd obviously actually been abusing his wife.
Ugh.
So, yeah.
Oh, he sounds lovely then.
Oh, God, I know, he's a delight. So whilst they were looking into Rafal, the police were also still looking into Catherine's life to see what kind of person she was. What kind of people she would hang around with, and that was when they found that Catherine had a number of profiles and accounts on adult online dating sites. These sites weren't like Tinder or Match.com. They were like casual sex meetups.
Right, okay. Websites,
but something was off about these dating website profiles that Catherine had supposedly set up.
So she didn't set them up, did she?
The wording just didn't seem like her. Police actually had her phone, so they could see her text history.
Mm-hmm.
So they could see what she talked like.
Mm-hmm.
And police, what kind of words she used. So it just didn't seem like it was Catherine.
Right.
Police dug further, and they found pornographic images supposedly of Catherine, but they weren't. They were edited. Basically, had Catherine's face on another woman's body. So messages on the site, they dated back a few months before Catherine's death, but the most recent message that was sent was at 5 a.m. on the morning that Catherine died, and the message was sent to a man said that she was on her way to meet him, and then within a few hours, well, we know she was dead. So it was almost like, was that a wee setup there?
Yeah.
To make it look like she was off to meet some guy.
That's why I was having a confused. I was like, is this what's happening?
Mm-hmm. So police, they got to work tracing the phone number, hoping that it would lead them back to the man that she'd texted. So that was happening in the background. So as they were doing all of this, Catherine's autopsy results came back, and the results said that the cause of death was asphyxiation. It seemed as though that she may have been suffocated somewhere else and then transported in her car. And so someone else had probably driven her car to where the car was found, and she was possibly, obviously they don't know for sure, but they think she was possibly in the boot of the car.
Right.
She was probably dead at this point.
Right.
And it was at this point, actually, in the case, that police recalled that when they first went round to the house to speak to Rafal, when Catherine was still just missing, so they weren't really looking for anything in particular odd in the house. But now that they know, or they knew that Catherine's cause of death was basically by suffocation, our police officer remembered seeing one pillowcase pegged on the line drying after it had been washed. Odd, right?
Yeah.
Like, who washes just one pillowcase?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally odd. You know, it's not, you wash your bedding, don't you? So you'd have
You wash it all together,
yeah. So police now believe that she had been suffocated with that pillowcase that was on the line, and obviously been washed afterwards. So forensic experts, they were also sent to look at the car, and they found that the fire was set around 6 a.m. that morning, and while police were suspicious of Rafal, he did clock into work at 5:30 that morning. So he had a bit of an alibi there.
Mm-hmm.
So it couldn't have been him that at least set the fire.
Mm-hmm.
But what was odd was that those same forensic scientists that examined the car found that Catherine was wearing shorts at the time her body was burned, and people that knew Catherine, they'd never seen Catherine wearing shorts, except, when I think she had jammies on, like, she would maybe wear shorts as pyjamas,
Right.
but she never really wear shorts as, like, day-to-day wear.
Yeah, same.
So they thought that was odd as well. So why would she have driven herself wearing shorts when that's just not something that she would do? So basically they decided that Catherine had been killed in her sleep, or at least when she was in her pyjamas.
Right.
So she wasn't ready. She wasn't ready for the day, which kind of contradicts the theory that she was going to meet up with a man. Because that's what I mean. Is like
she would be dressed for it, wouldn't it? She
exactly.
Wearing the shorts.
Yeah, because she's not known to wear shorts. So these are pajama shorts. So why would she have went to meet a man in pajama shorts?
Exactly. She would have been dressed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that. So surely, I said she would have got dressed and to go and meet up with this man. It's a very confusing case because there's so many of these different elements. But all it took was one more piece of evidence to come forward from Catherine's autopsy, and that was that she still had undigested food in her stomach at the time that she was killed. But it would have been impossible for her to have undigested food still in her stomach if she was killed any later than 5 a.m. So basically she was killed before 5 a.m, more likely around 2 or 3 a.m, which means she would have been home. And of course, who would have been home with her? Of course, her husband, Rafal.
Yeah.
So Rafal, he even told police that he actually kissed her on his way to work, but she was dead at 5 a.m. So obviously he lied totally to the police about that, about giving her the goodbye kiss. So the thought is that maybe he had murdered Catherine before he left for work, and then maybe he's hired someone to take her body away and set fire.
Right.
I mean, so his alibi would check out because he would be at work. So, clearly planning things there. So, of course, Rafal was arrested and brought into police custody. And from there, this is where it began to all unravel. After reading texts between Rafal and Anna, police thought that she might know something too, or could she be involved?
Well, this is what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm. So she was arrested as well. Now, remember, police were trying to trace the number that Catherine had supposedly sent messages to via the dating website. Well, police finally got the results of that.
Anna's. And
they were able to trace the SIM card to a familiar location. It was in Anna's car. Using the SIM card and its tracking, they were able to trace Anna's movements in the 2 days before Catherine's murder. So she was seen on CCTV with her uncle at a petrol station. The two of them were buying jerry cans of petrol together.
So her uncle was in this as well?
Mm-hmm. So now it seemed like 3 people were involved in Anna's... Anna's and Anna's uncle. He didn't have any friends, so he was quite close with Anna, and he would basically do anything for her. Because he just, he would just do anything for her. So
this is awful.
Mm-hmm. So there were now a few motives of why these people had come together and murdered Catherine. There was the love triangle, of obviously between Catherine, Rafal and Anna. There was the money motive, maybe. I think maybe that's why the uncle got involved, because of the money motive. So it was clear that it had actually been planned for months. The fake profiles, because it wasn't Catherine that was on these dates. Yeah. They were fake.
Yeah.
So basically it was that was all Anna and Rafal, but the uncle had got involved at the getting rid of the body parts, so he
Right.
wasn't involved in the
I
murdering
reckon
part.
they probably were just like the money they were going to pay him, and that's maybe why he was involved with it.
So all three of them pled not guilty, and they all said that they had no part in Catherine's murder. You know, they had no idea what happened to her, and they wouldn't tell the police anything, so the police had to come up with their own theorised version of events.
Right, yeah.
Which are, that night, as I said, everything went as normal. You know, they did go to the supermarket, they had dinner together, they watched a DVD together, and they went to bed, as normal. So they think that while Catherine was asleep... Sorry.
Oh, she's having another drink.
Sorry. Yeah, so they believe that while Catherine was asleep, Raphael picked up a pillow and smothered her with it while she was sleeping. He then called Anna and her uncle to come up to the house to take Catherine's body away. They drove the 7 miles with it in the car, then put her in the driver's seat of the car, and then they waited until 6 a.m. to set it on fire because they thought that they'd created the perfect alibi for Raphael.
Yeah.
But then, in a turn of events, Raphael and Anna actually turned on each other whilst they were in custody.
Oh, really?
So Raphael said that Anna killed Catherine out of jealousy, but Anna said that Raphael had hired a hitman to kill Catherine for the insurance money. And Anna even went as far as to attempt to smuggle out a confession letter from this hitman, supposedly. Her cellmate was due to be released, so Anna wrote a fake confession note from the hitman saying Raphael had offered him £20,000 to help him kill Catherine, and so her cellmate, you know, once she was released, she would basically post it to the police.
Ah, right, I get you.
Yeah, so she would, once she got out, she would post it to the police like it was a confession note to the police.
I was thinking, how are the police going to believe that she's got a confession letter in her from this guy in her cell? Like,
yeah, but no, her cellmate was going to smuggle
she's
it out
gonna
with her,
post it,
and
yeah.
then she would post it.
Oh, I was just having a blonde moment there, like.
Yeah. So her cellmate got released, but she wasn't able to do that. She decided to take it straight to the police.
Well, good for her.
And saying, look what Anna's tried to basically make me do here.
Yeah.
You know, that didn't get pulled off. That was, you know, not happening. So anyway, all three were put on trial for murder. Raphael, he sobbed in the dock saying that he'd lost the love of his life.
Really?
He said he had no part in the murder and it was all Anna. But Raphael, you know, apparently he'd actually been overheard saying to Anna, because obviously during the court times, they've been able to talk to each other, saying that he loved her. So that, you know, and she said it back, so that just confirmed to the police.
So he's lost the love of his life, but he's telling this other woman that he loves her.
Exactly, that just confirmed to the police the theory that the two of them murdered Catherine together so that they could be together. Which, why not just, like, divorce her then? Or I don't know, like, to me it's almost like he couldn't make up his mind. Like, he obviously was with Anna originally, then met Catherine, then decided to like Catherine more. Obviously decided they want to move on and live a life with her, but must have still liked Anna. You know.
Right, you're just confusing me now.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
He was obviously just going backwards and forwards, and then decided to make a decision which was murder, which, no.
Again, not the answer.
No.
So, when Raphael was asked about it, he said, when he was asked about the fact he'd been overheard saying that he loved Anna, he basically said that he didn't mean it, but he said it to try and get more out of Anna about how she killed Catherine alone. So his defence said that Anna killed Catherine out of jealousy and out of spite, because obviously Raphael had moved on to Catherine. But, you know.
Yeah, but when exactly did she manage to kill? If she was killed, she was killed in the early hours of the morning. How exactly was that going to happen, mate? When you were in bed with her?
Well, exactly. It's ridiculous. But apparently, the police actually theorised that they'd wanted to kill her the night before, that they actually killed her. But apparently, she'd got a phone call in the middle of the night, so that kind of put their plans to a day back.
All right.
So she might have actually been killed the night before if it hadn't been for this phone call. So all three were found guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 32 years each.
Oh,
which I thought was quite good.
Yeah.
Even the uncle, considering I mean, obviously, if he's driven the car and set the car on fire, so, totally.
They're all just as bad as each other.
Yeah, totally. So, they all appealed they actually all appealed to serve their sentences back in Poland. Because apparently, it must be like, due to the different laws or whatever, but if they had been allowed to serve their sentence back in Poland, the minimum sentences would have been reduced from 32 to 25 years.
All right.
So I'm assuming that must be the maximum or something in
Yeah,
Poland.
obviously.
Not sure how it works. But thankfully their appeal was rejected, along with other appeals to get their sentences reduced. So they're all serving their time in UK prisons.
Good.
Which I thought was quite right. You committed the crime over here.
Yeah.
Why should you get to go back to Poland just to get a bit less time on your sentence?
Exactly. That really annoys me when people try to get time off their sentences.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, you've done wrong, so serve the time that you're given.
Well, exactly. Like, what you've done is absolutely horrific. This poor girl thought she was with the love of her life. She was progressing in life really well with her promotions at work. She was with the guy who thought she could spend. She went to bed one night and got suffocated to death. For what? Because he was seeing somebody else,
Yeah.
It's awful.
And by the sounds of it, wanted her money.
Well, yeah, exactly. So Catherine's family, they've set up the Catherine Wells-Burr Foundation, which raises money to help victims and family of murder victims cope with the aftermath of a murder, so things like funeral costs and that sort of thing. And they also campaigned for tighter immigration laws in the UK, saying that people who move to the UK from other countries that aren't screened enough in terms of their criminal history. As we know, Rafał was known to the Polish authorities for abusing his wife and the reckless drink driving, so why wasn't that sort of,
They should definitely be stricter, definitely.
Yeah, like when he's come across here. Because, he's obviously had previous form of...
So Australia, they're really strict with they let in. If you've got a criminal record and
well, exactly,
you're not getting in. Yeah,
I know. So that's what I mean. Like, if he's come across the UK to live, I mean, there should be a better screening way of. Fine, you want to come and live here, but we need to see everything on the table of what you've been up to in the country that you've been living in, and if you've been seen to doing that, to me, he should have been refused
entry
to the UK, and that's where I think sometimes we're a bit soft. The UK, we just
definitely.
We do let a lot of people in without really clearly looking at their background, whereas Australia, some people might think they're too strict, but actually I totally agree. Like, why would they want somebody in their country that's had a criminal record that could then potentially offend in their country, which actually he's done. He's offended in our country.
No, I totally agree with that. I think, if you're letting people into the country, which is fine, but just screen them better.
I mean, I must admit, obviously, because this is going back sort of 10 years, I mean, I didn't find any... should have really looked in the update of that, but I didn't see if they had been successful in there. Because, I mean, as I said, it's 10 years ago now. I mean, I still think we're a bit soft in the UK personally, but yeah, so 3 was definitely a crowd, and sadly, this poor girl lost her life. That's just because
awful. And she had no idea of Anna, did she?
She never knew about Anna.
So, like...
She was totally unaware of why...
Poor woman is just living her life, doing her thing, not knowing that her husband has got another woman and is actually and has been planning for God knows how long to kill her. And then I wonder if she knew that he had she should have known that he had an ex-wife, because when you get married you have to produce
you probably do that,
a divorce certificate.
As far as she was concerned, she
wouldn't have known about the abuse.
No, she just thought that he didn't want to be with her anymore, so left her. And although I would have questioned why he didn't want anything to do with his child, because I had a child with the first one.
But he might not have told her that
then,
she had a child.
Again, I mean, because there wasn't obviously I just watched a sort of documentary and bits from a video, so there wasn't like, I mean, there was not enough detail there, but I mean, there was still bits that you fully wouldn't know about it. But,
as we always say, we're never going to know every single detail.
So we don't know what he would have told Catherine about his previous life in Poland. I mean, we've got no idea. So again, maybe she wasn't aware. I don't know.
She might. See, it would be easy enough for him to keep a child from her. Yeah. As I said, like, because I remember when I got married, and this, if they said if you'd been divorced,
well, they weren't married though, because they were going to get married. Right. So maybe that's why. Maybe because they hadn't got to the stage where they were getting.
She might not have even known they'd been married before.
Well, that's true. She might not have. I mean, instead, all she thought was that she'd got this job that she was progressing in. She'd met the man that she fell in love with. They'd obviously bought a house together. They were planning their future together, and she thought things were going really well. She had no reason, I guess, to suspect that anything was wrong. And
absolutely
totally
awful, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, but totally heartbreaking as well.
Oh well, thanks for that. And thanks to all our listeners for being here for another week. And we'll see you next time.
See you later. Bye.
If you'd like to get in contact with us or follow us on our social media, we are on Instagram and Twitter at crime_divers_pod. You can email us at crime_divers_pod@outlook.com. We're on YouTube, and that's Crime Divers Podcast, and TikTok is also Crime Divers Podcast. If you would like to financially support the show, you could go to www.buymeacoffee.com/crimedivers and make a one-off donation. Our Patreon is patreon.com/crimedivers. We have 3 tiers, which is £1, £3 or £5, and you get bonus episodes, early access to episodes, and ad-free episodes.
And if you haven't already, please don't forget to subscribe, rate and review.